Ariana Rollins, you're listening to the Manifesting Guide. So, what are the critical errors we can make in manifesting? That's exactly what we're discussing today on the Manifesting Guide. But just before we do that, if you're tired of pushing and forcing yourself to get things done, go get your Manifest Without Force or Frustration gift at highertrueself.com. It's completely free. Hey, and if you'd like notifications when I release a new episode, go to highertrueself.com/podcast. This is Ariana Rollins, and you're listening to episode 52, From Intention to Reality, How to Manifest from Thought Alone. I'm so glad you're here. How can we manifest from thought alone? And can it be that easy? What are the things that trip us up? So let's start with this. If you ever felt like you've hit a brick wall and the wall isn't moving, and there's something that is really important to you, you've got a big desire. Here's a thing that's really important to know, is that the bigger the desire, the more the resistance arises. So if you feel something is blocking you and you're starting to think it might be you inside you, you're really going to love this podcast. Let's get on to the content. Let's first start with the notion of negative creation mode. I know it kind of sounds like a downer, and it is. Because here's some signs that you might be in negative creation mode, and we want to watch this, because if we're trying to manifest positive things and our mindset is not right, well, we can, like I said, hit a brick wall. And the longer we try to create something, the longer we try to manifest something, the more resistance comes up. It's almost like our unconscious mind tries to protect us from that disappointment, from hitting our head against the brick wall. So here's some signs that you might be in negative creation mode. Just make note, and I'm going to go through them and just count 1, 2, 3. Okay? First, you dwell on past mistakes. You're obsessed with what's not going right in your life. You don't have much hope for the future. Maybe you're living with chronic pain or a disease that just won't go away. You're easily taken off your path. This is where a family member comes in and you're trying to work on something. You're like, okay, I'll help. Or that your own thoughts disappoint you and you get taken off your path by it's not going to work out, doubting yourself, lack of conviction, lack of belief. You feel isolated and not supported. And this is an interesting one, because this one, we're not talking about support just from people, because that's obviously where we think, our family, our partner, they should support us. And that feeling of not feeling supported and isolated, no one understands you. Oh my gosh, is that a downward spiral? And negative manifesting is the only consequence when we're in that mindset for any length of time. I'm not talking about you have to be perfect and be a policeman for your thoughts, but just notice, did something happen? And it's really hard to shake it. It's now 3 days later, a week later, a month later. Then that's a definite sign you're in negative creation mode. Next one, you doubt yourself. And this is where maybe you doubt your decisions. You doubt if something's right for you. And you wonder, gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be successful. And keeping that mindset active, you won't take action. And it's not going to be coming from a positive, inspired place. It's normally going to be coming from pushing and forcing. And if you've been listening to the Manifesting Guide podcast for any length of time, you know I really stand against pushing and forcing, because it's like that brick wall is in front of us and we think by running up against it enough times we're going to be able to be successful. That's not the way it works. We actually bruise ourselves and we develop blocker patterns which are trying to protect us from the hurt, from the disappointment, from the physical pain sometimes. Another one, you put others' needs way ahead of yours. Now, if you're sensitive and perhaps you're an empath, or perhaps you're just a loving, open-hearted person, you might find yourself doing this a lot and you're not aware of it. So putting your needs way ahead of putting others' needs way ahead of yourself builds a pattern, builds a belief that you're not important. What you want is not important. and everyone else's desires are more important. Are you seeing where that might lead? Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 8 of them, how many did you say yes to? Because if you are, I would say, definitely 8, 7, 6, 5. If you have 5 of those, it's quite likely you've got a pattern of negative creation mode. And that can really undermine and sabotage manifesting, because you're going to be working so hard and you're not going to know why it's not happening. And guess what happens? It fuels the negative mindset and our disappointment. Okay, let's get on to the next one. Now I want to get into something that's not commonly understood, and it's what I like to call the pivotal area of your life. What do I mean by that? Let me start with a story. Well, back in the Pacific Northwest in the United States, there were a bunch of logging factories, right? They would build the logging factories near waterways, because what they would do is they'd cut the tree down, they'd roll the log down, and then it would just move gently on its own to the logging factory where they would prepare it for lumber. Well, here's the thing, is what happened. Inevitably, there would become a log jam. And these loggers were fearless and highly trained. It was a dangerous job. So one of the logging men would jump onto a log and then jump onto the next log, jump into the next log, and find the log that was preventing the rest of the logs from gently and naturally moving down the river to the logging factory. It was an extremely dangerous job, because as soon as those logs started moving, then the man had to get out of the way because the logs just started rushing through the river. How does this relate to you and you achieving your intentions? Well, there are things that are blocking you, and you may be completely unaware of what they are. You see the results of it. So let's talk now about what's the pivotal area of your life. What is the area that if you were to identify it, resolve it, would allow everything else to flow? Kind of like getting off of the hamster wheel and getting on a straight line and straight track to where you're going, because we get so distracted. There is so much to grab our attention and so many things that promise great things. And if we are easily sold at all, like I used to be, we can believe in something that may not get us where we want. So a big thing is developing our discernment. Okay, so let's talk pivotal area of your life. It's not the relationship or money or your business or negative thoughts. That's just where you notice it. The pivotal area of your life is where your life is pointing you. It's where you keep stubbing your toe, where you pour a lot of energy, time, money, resources to fix. So what area of your life do you long to get right? Maybe have some peace, to feel successful. Usually the pivotal area of our life touches every area. So it impacts our career, impacts our relationships, it can impact our health. Here's some examples. Make note if any of these resonate. Weak boundaries, self-doubt, lack of self-respect, anxiety, believing you can't have it all, a lack of confidence, and if you're self-employed, a lack of conviction in what you do. So once you've identified the pivotal area of your life, what do you do about it? Well, I recommend getting a piece of paper and writing down the most recent awarenesses, the most recent noticing of when you had weak boundaries, when you didn't speak up about something that was important, or when you doubted yourself, is start to track it. Because when you have that self-awareness, when you see perhaps when it's most active in your life, who it's most active around. A lot of times we can find there are certain people who trigger it in us. For me, it was me as a mother. My son would run rings around me, and I had no boundaries. And then that started to grow into other areas of my life. So start to notice that. Okay. And then pay attention to, is there a message right before it happens? What do I mean by that? A message. Is there something that you feel in your body? A message from your unconscious mind, a body feeling. A lot of what we do in the higher true self work is somatic. It's what is happening in our body. How are we feeling? Because that's an indication that a different belief has started to influence us, or what we would call in our work a blocker. So that would be my first assignment for you, to do that. And let's move forward on now a new way to get what you want, because we know that there's things in our way. We know that we've got beliefs. We know that we have habits and patterns that don't serve us. But do we have to resolve all of them to be able to get what we want? Do we have to resolve every belief, every blocker to manifest by thought alone? No. There is a way where you can start to become aligned. What do I mean by aligned? So you've had those experiences, I'm sure, when you've had an intuitive awareness. Maybe you were about to step in the road and you felt this invisible hand pull you back. Or maybe you were dating someone and you had this intuitive awareness. Wait a minute, this is not a serious relationship. This is not going where I want it to. Oh my gosh, he or she's seeing somebody else. It's those things that just drop in from out of nowhere. What I call those are messages from our higher self, our true self. And when we start to pay attention to those messages, and most importantly, when we take action on it and we listen to it, our life starts to unfold with greater ease. It's almost like we've got this feeling of being supported and uplifted by life, rather than pushing the river upstream. So my favorite way to support people in getting into that, in the zone, getting to listen to those messages and confidently take action, is the true self alignment work. And we teach that in the Highest Potential program. And what I notice, which is really interesting because I didn't think that would be a side effect, is that people start to manifest automatically, naturally. It's almost like, your higher self, your true self is always listening. How can I support you? How can I support you? And then when you have this connection reestablished, it's listening and it's supporting you beautifully to have the small desires, the big desires, and gives you the little whisperings, the intuitive guidance to make things happen, to create things in a way that's not pressure-filled or forcing. Now that's what I call the fast track to manifesting from thought alone. Then there's another one. There's a book that I read way back in 2002, 21 years now, and it's a new way to get what you want. It's an odd title, get ready for it. How to Get Lots of Money for Anything Fast. Now, it used to be set up as an ebook and with audios that you could only purchase online. But the cool thing is you can find a condensed version of that book on Amazon, and it's called Make Your Life a 10. I'll put the link in the show notes. Make Your Life a 10. And I think it's like $20. Well worth the investment. It's written by an MIT engineer who became a highly successful entrepreneur. And he actually built a working model of the human brain. He built this when he was in MIT. And it was a way to help people understand decision making. Yes, it was used for marketing purposes, but it was so effective, almost like artificial intelligence way back when. So effective, you'd put a question in there and it would spit out the probable outcomes. What did he do with this? He created an amazing system to help people accomplish their intentions without force or frustration by resolving the contradiction. Those things that say, yes, I'd like to lose weight and I don't like exercise. Those contradictions, which if you're trying to achieve your goals in conventional means, that means you just got to use force and willpower. And for me, that doesn't last long. I go back to normal. So my behavior goes back to what I'm used to. I have a habit life that knows how to get things done in a flowing way. But what if we want to change? What if we want to move from our current reality into a new experience? Okay, this is the last thing we're going to do, and then I'm going to wrap it up. What I suggest is not set yourself up for failure. What do I mean by that? Most people, especially at the new year, is they set these big leaps, these big intentions, these big goals, nearly impossible. There's nothing wrong with nearly impossible as long as you have the tools and resources to make it happen. So my suggestion is to create like steps on a ladder, rungs on a ladder. So you start to write down the milestones, and then you set your first intention for that first milestone that you wrote down. And I do recommend working with the system, because if you've had any disappointment in the past where you've not succeeded, then there are blocks in the way. And I want you to succeed. I mean, that's why I do everything that I do. I want you to win. My highest passion is for you to experience greater freedom and success. My favorite tool to recommend to you, besides that book, which hopefully is going to inspire you to want to learn more, is our year-long Highest Potential program. It's a phenomenal system where you learn the true self-alignment. You also learn how to manifest from thought alone and clear any thoughts, feelings, behaviors that you adopted from society and from your parents, and guaranteed you're not conscious of them. So it gives you access to this hidden black box within you, and so you can get those things that have been sabotaging you under your conscious control and accomplish things with greater ease. It's a beautiful program. I'll put the link in the bottom for you to take a look, and I can't wait to support you throughout the year. Whether it means you're listening to the podcast, and thank you for that. Make sure you subscribe, because it really will notify you when I submit a new podcast. Or if it's aligned for you to be in the Highest Potential program, I'd be so excited. All right. So much love, and have a wonderful start to the new year. And please, let's ditch resolutions to the curb. They don't generally work, and they're just a tool for blockers to beat us up for not performing and not achieving. Let's be done with it. Let's work with our brain, with our unconscious, to make a life that's so successful, so loving, and so peaceful that we become a role model for others. Bye for now. Hey, if you're done with forcing yourself and you say, I'm going to make this a different year, then I invite you to go get my How to Manifest Without Force or Frustration free gift. Go to highertrueself.com/freebies, and you'll see that you get a whole manifesting kit. Let's make it a brilliant year.